Yo, 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 happy Tuesday, everybody. It's your boy Kingwillo, man, host of the Ancestor Effect podcast, man. We are back in this bad boy with another banger, bro. We about to go crazy today. You know, we just about to talk about some more spiritual healing, man. About to go back into the reason why all of the young people in America today are depressed. Specifically, our copper-colored brothers and sisters. You see, here at the Ancestor Effect, right, at this conglomerate that we got going on, you know, copper-colored cultures, Ancestor Effect, morals of money, all of that stuff, we are only aiming to motivate people and to help bring people out of tough times. You know, as people who experienced a lot over the years, we're just trying to use our voice and our experiences and our solutions to help people navigate through this thing that we call life. You know, through this thing that we call life, because we're technically living in a crisis right now. And the attack is no longer physical. The attack is being perpetuated mentally, is being rolled out mentally. And it's affecting the lives of all of the young people from our diaspora. So we just aiming to make a difference or to see change in the world that we're living in the communities that we live in, and in the world that we share with the people. You know, we need some real spiritual healing out here. It's a mess. I'm not even going to lie. And after reading this book right here, the same book that I brought to the channel the last time, Happiness by Richard Layard, you know, a lot of things are starting to make sense to me, man. It's starting to make sense to me. You see, in the last one, we spoke about why all of the young people are depressed and are unhappy. And from the book, we learned that a lot of this unhappiness or this depression, a lot of it is new. It's fairly new, I would say, for the last 200, or we could just say 400 years, right? 400 years of slavery. For the last 400 to 500 years, this depression has been knocking us off with increasing numbers. The numbers are only increasing over the years. And in the last one, we spoke about why that may be happening, why it is happening, why has it started to become a thing within the 20th and 21st centuries. And what we learned, and you guys can like, comment, and subscribe and click that notification bell to stay up to date on all this content, is that a lot of this unhappiness stems from something that we spoke about called individualism and the separation from God, right? People put more faith in themselves and worldly objects than they put in unity and the powers of the Most High, the greatest man above, the man who saved my life, saved my father's life, he saved my mother's life, he saved my family life, and he's still working on my elders as we speak, right? I'm so grateful for him because he's making things happen that I wouldn't even be able to put together right now, because it's like slowly but surely we're working together to change lives, not only ours but other people as well. And this has been a battle that we've been fighting for like the last 7 to 8 years. Personally, like off camera, really doing the work within our households and communities to help remodel and reshape the way things are going. But yeah, so we learned that people are more disconnected from God as ever, especially young people in the 20th century. They put more faith in idols and materialistic items than they do into their spiritual being, right? Into the one spiritual being, or within their essence themselves. Or for the fellas, they put more into the things that don't matter, and they stop chasing their true purpose on earth. Something that our ancestors been doing for years. Like, their purpose on earth was to thrive, provide for their families, right? Crop the land and live and spread out. And they did that. They did that perfectly fine until the encroachment of the Easterners, right? The Easterners, we're going to call it Europeans and them Easterners or whatever. Or just foreigners that invaded lands that did not belong to them. With this invasion came ways and customs that have been striking us down. Like we are feeling the after effects of things that happened in the 1700s. I want people to understand this. This trauma is deeper than what people may think, right? It's deeper than just going to slavery. It's deeper than the Watts riots. It's deeper than a lot of that. This trauma is rooted so deep, it goes as deep as to the Willie Lynch theory, which was introduced in the 1700s, right? How to make a slave, right? How to make a slave. Whoa, that one blew my mind. Because what you're telling us is to take a man out of his most happiest state. This is how we break him down. And they use that same strategy today. So I'm not going to continue to blabber about that, right? I want to go into the purpose of this episode today. We're going to talk about the people are like over the years. Are we getting happier? Right? Are we getting happier? And if we are, what specifically is making us happier, right? Hence why I say, why are young people so depressed? Because the things that are supposed to make us happy that we think are not. On a spiritual level, they are not making us happy. They're actually making us more depressed over time. And we feed into this way of living as if it's nothing, right? This individualism, out for self. I mean, if it don't appeal to me, man, I don't give a damn. I don't care. I don't care what you got going on. It don't affect me. Right? But little do we know, our society is like a computer. When one thing goes wrong, it's like a domino effect. It's followed up by millions and millions of other problems. That's the thing with malware. If you don't kill it before it affects the computer, your entire computer is fried. Right? And that's because it affects one system, one process, and then spreads out to other processes or other operational systems that you may have downloaded into your computer. Apps, no matter what it is. Our society works like a computer. So when one feels it, we all feel it. Right? And this is the thing with the whole public assistance situation now, and the Section 8 and the housing crisis and everything. Like, people have become complacent and reliant on the government, right? Meaning now the government has more mouths to feed because they got more people coming out like, yo, we need this stuff. That money now is being deducted from the people who are out there working hard, right? Not to say y'all don't deserve it. Old folks and vets get everything they deserve. But if you're willing, able, and like if your body is willing and enabled, go work, right? Go make an honest living. Go do something. Because we, the hardworking tax-paying citizens in the country, feel the after effects of that system, right? It's no way why a person making $35,000 to $45,000 can't afford rent in New York City, or can't even go and acquire himself a home, right? Or why food costs so much, why these prices just keep on hiking up and up and up in New York City. When one person feels it, we all get it. So we got to ditch that individualism, because we got to understand our society is structured like a computer. When one gets it, we all get it. So again, I bring it back to are we getting happier? Are we getting happier? And if we're not getting happier, then what is contributing to that unhappiness or this depression? Hence why I said the things that we think are supposed to make us happy are not actually making us happy. See, we've become a society, like I said, that relies on things that are not conducive or like are of the betterment overall for the community. Right? That statement, it takes a village, is a real statement. Because back in the day, people were raising their children or raising the youth, the adolescents in villages utilizing a community group effort. You had friends, family members, different tribes coming together for marriage, through marriage, so that they can grow and expand and be abundant. So that term, it takes a village, is a real term. And then as we go into the rest of this video, right, I'm actually going to pull out some statistics that show and prove that over the years, we've pulled away from that village building mindset, right? As we've pulled away from that village building mindset, we've only decreased in happiness. In the West and in Europe and other European nations over there on that side. It's crazy because, like, don't we all work together, right? Isn't everything off the same system? So then why are we all so unhappy, right? What's going on in each of these points on earth, in these countries, in our societies, that's contributing to our unhappiness? So before we even go into the book, right, I'm going to pull up 3 clips for y'all, as a matter of fact, that I got from Instagram that actually show some of the problems that's contributing to our unhappiness, right? But what I always say is we can't really blame the people. We got to blame what has been systematically haunting us for all of these years. So let's check out these clips. I ain't gonna lie, they heartbreaking to watch, especially for me, because it's like, dang, man, I have so much faith in the people that we're gonna get better. And every time I see stuff like this, it just lets me know that we have a lot of work to do, and not just a minor amount or we got a lot of work. Nah, we got a lot of work to do. So let's check it out.
I don't like any of you.
Now, real quick, the moms in this clip is telling her kids that she does not want them. She does not want her children. Now, before I play it, we gonna say something real quick, right? I gotta just point it out there. Whatever family she comes from is a terrible family, right? Most likely a single family home. Because you got to be from a crazy background to act like this, right? If you watch your moms raise children or your moms do the job correctly, there's no way you would react to raising children like this. So she has been traumatized from her home, and now she's passing that trauma down to her children. Systematic trauma, right? Systematic. Let's check it out.
What else?
I know.
I don't know.
We all knew that.
Good.
We all knew that.
I know. And I'm telling you that. I'm reiterating what you already know. I'm agreeing with you. What else? What else are you going to try to tell me that ain't true? That I already know about myself?
I didn't say, you the one who said it.
And I'm agreeing with you. What? Ask your dad too. I told him too. I don't give a fuck about none of y'all. You think he wants any of you neither? The fuck?
Not even a dad?
I'm just saying. It's the truth. Nobody wants y'all.
My daddy cares about you.
Good. Because I don't. At least one parent does. Shit. At least one parent does.
Imagine hearing that from your mother. The cradle, the nurturer. The nurturer. And this is why we created 25 motivational quotes for young copper-colored women and mothers, to help us get through stuff like this. You're a nurturer. I show this to my mom, she gonna be disappointed. My mom is an elder. She's an elder in these streets, a real right mother. I'm grateful. I'm grateful because this is crazy, bro.
Thank God for your dad. I give him props for that.
Y'all see this shit,
That man, I give that man a high five props. Her father. His father deserves a high five props because he cares about these crazy ass kids that I have to deal with. I don't like any of you.
Yo, she definitely needs some therapy, yo. She needs to heal from whatever was haunting her in the past, or from whatever happened to her in the past. She was supposed to heal prior to having these damn children. So now these kids they gotta go through this. And they never gonna forget this. For the rest of their life, is constantly gonna play in the back of their head that their mother said that she did not care about them. That them kids is crazy. That she don't want nothing to do with them kids. Their mother. Why are all the young people so unhappy and depressed? This is why. This is actually one of the reasons, as we go into it and we pull the facts from the book. This is one of the reasons why. The trauma, the hate. This is one of the reasons why. I pray for this lady right here. I hope you find God. Find something, because you need it. Got another one for y'all. And this is not for me to bash women or anything. It just so happens that all of the videos that I've ran across over the week were from women. Right? Let's check it out.
So my wife feel like it's a good idea to put her child father on child support when we don't need the money. You already see what that do to me. Why you want to put him through that?
Because I need his money.
Need the money for what, kid? What you need the money for?
Stuff that I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to, like, go on a vacation and stuff like that. Like, it's stuff that I need. So, like, he needs to pay me something. Give me something.
You do know that child support is not for you, right?
Technically, it is. It is.
Please explain to me how child support is for you.
I need the money to make sure I'm good and make sure my baby good.
Okay, but we don't need the money. Your baby's good. I'll take care of you and your kids.
Okay.
We don't need the money. Your baby is good. I take care of you and your kids. Buddy's a sucker. That's one. Two, look at it like this, right? Remember, I said the things that we think are supposed to make us happy are not making us any happier. We only end up more depressed as time goes on. Check this out, right? So let's just say she's basically saying that she wants to get the old baby father for his bread, not to put food in the child's mouth, but for her to go on vacations and buy expensive things that she likes. Materialistic items, right? So not godly, so worldly, and so of the devil, right? You want to break down this man's life to go satisfy your individual needs? Let's bring it back to individualism. She wants to go and terrorize that man's life. Child support. I wonder what state they live in, because depending on the state, you know, it work weird. Right? Some states you could take everything. Some states you can't, right? But depending on where they at, I would hope it don't work out like that. She wants to take that man's money to pay for things that are not going to conducively better her life. She's only gonna rack up the trophies. I've been here, I did this, I brought that, this, that, and the third. Right? You got a good man with you that's taking care of you and a child that does not belong to him. It does not belong to him. Now, what if he just leave you? Now you stuck with that child and whatever means you had to just take care of yourself and the child. So if you thought you didn't have it before the child support and you wanted all of those things now, just imagine how life will get once that man turns his back on you. I'm sorry, I get so passionate about it because these are the These are the reasons why. These are the reasons why. Why are all of the young people so depressed? In this situation, no matter which way you put it, all three individuals will end up hurt and depressed at the end. The man talking to the woman, and the man being put on child support. Man on child support, woman satisfying her needs with things that don't matter. Boyfriend leaves her. They're both depressed now, assuming that they have some type of love for one another. Right? Granted, the guy will definitely be taking a W if he's able to walk away from this situation alive. Right? These are the reasons why. She wants to satisfy her materialistic needs in order to... she wants to put this man on child support in order to satisfy her materialistic needs. It's so crazy, bro. It's so crazy. And yet, we still wondering why we're behind. Right? This is why we're behind. Right? If everybody was smart, we would know that, first of all, when money touches our hands, that says a lot. When we have income, when we have monetary value, when we have liquid and unliquidated assets or any type of assets, when that touches the hand of a copper-colored individual, that gives us so much power in this corporation, not country, called America. This is a corporation that gives us so much power. In fact, outside of building strong and healthy families, one part of the foundation would be money in this corporation. But yet we let these things separate us as if that there's a difference between us and the money, right? The money will be here forever. We won't. So it's important that we really, and I want y'all to understand this real quick. It's important that we really take our time and realize the value we have in one and another. Everybody's gifted. Everybody was blessed the minute they were conceived on this earth. The minute the Most High put the spirit down and our parents intertwined in intercourse and made love and birthed us out and pushed us out, we were gifted. We were blessed from that very moment. Blessed. Everybody has a gift. There's no, I don't know what I want to do, or find your purpose. Figure it out, because everybody has a gift. And the minute we start realizing the monetary value we have in one another outside of the physical paper cash, that is when we will become happier and more successful as a society. I say that with an S on my chest. That's when we will become more happier and more successful as a society. We have to work together as a conglomerate like other nations and peoples do. Right? That's why we got corner stores with Habibis in every single one, or the Mira Etes in every single one. You know, my Dominican folks, my Puerto Rican folks, right? The African folks, right? Everybody got they, you know what I mean? But us, right? And that is contributing to our unhappiness, right? We have to know when to draw the line, right? Draw the line, right? We gotta fight for what's right or die for nothing. Literally. I always say, if anybody came and invaded America, bro, as much as people think, if we really united, right, everybody get their straps from their blocks or whatever the case may be, we could possibly put up a fight, bro. We already know the U.S. military going to throw guns on the streets. Protect yourself, hopefully, right? We could probably put up a fight against Iran and China and places like that. Like, you know, they come up over here. Yeah, we know what we doing. We could probably put up a fight. But it at this point, based off the things that separate us, unifying it seems impossible, right? It seems impossible. Let's go into the next vid. And like I said, I'm sorry. It's unfortunate that most of these is women. Right, it's very unfortunate, and I got some shit to talk about when it comes to the fellas too, because you dirtbags still be gangbanging, and that's a big problem. But look, this is the last vid. Let's check it out. We're gonna talk about it.
Children is I'm done. And it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault. I'm done. I'm done. Children is I'm done.
Mom Dukes killed her babies because she had a fight with her ex and then had a mental breakdown. So, see, this one is very, very touchy too, because I always say, like, you know, men are the leaders. We are leaders. So, for things to escalate to a point to where you are having a fight with your significant other, then you're not really moving in your highest element as a male. We're not supposed to be putting our hands on women, period. Right? But then you really got to assess the mental health of certain individuals before we get into these relationships nowadays. because it's the trauma that people are suffering from, and we live our lives every day as if we don't know. We live our lives every day unaware to these things that are going on in our heads, right? The biggest battle you could fight is the battle within your biscuit. And I say that because everything starts upstairs. It starts with what you think, how you feel. That translates into what you say and what you do. Those things then become actions. Feelings become actions when you're not conscious. And those actions cause us to act in ways that aren't good for us. They aren't healthy for us. So in this scenario right here, right, this beautiful black woman was experiencing some type of trauma. This beautiful black woman here was experiencing some type of trauma. And again, we have a scenario where people are building these families without assessing these things at the door. Because you have a custody. Now you're bad enough is a custody battle, right? The relationship didn't work out. That's fair. But then there's further violence going on even outside of an ending relationship. So that trauma, it lies somewhere deep within. And it could come from both genders, the male and the female. It does not discriminate. But it affected them so much, this unhappiness, that it costed the lives of her 2 children. So now we start getting into the whys, right? Again, why are young people so unhappy? How could something like this happen? Right? What kind of background do these people come from to be going through these things or experiencing these things as if like this is regular everyday life? Why is it so frequent now outside of us being issued the internet, which is another problem? It's another problem. What's going on? All right, we're going to finish off with these videos. I'm done. Just wanted to give y'all some examples. So, statistically, going in the book, income and happiness in the United States has had a odd shift over the last couple years, so to say. So, in 1945, we had a 25% average of happy Americans. The income was low, though. Very, very low income. This is 1945. 25% average Americans are happy, but they have low incomes, right? Basically, barely enough money in today's world to get by. However, they still made do with what they had and was somewhat satisfied with what they had. They had a connection with God. Families were more united. This is prior to 1945, excuse me. Families were more united. The mother and the father was in the house. Kids was playing outside. Harlem was owned by black people. Right, and we just got free from slavery. Mind you, the trauma from slavery still dealt its strike on black people in America as far as the 1930s and 20s and 40s or whatever. We are still traumatized from slavery in these eras. However, we are using unity to further increase our happiness. So now, over the next 30 years, from 1945 to 1975, Americans have made more money. However, they have become less happier. Bringing it back to the root. The separation from God, right? The separation of the families. Let's add some more in there. War, drugs, crime. War, drugs, crime. What did the war do? And this is why this is the most ruthless form of systematic oppression that these folks could have ever embedded on us. The most ruthless form ever. Because prior to World War I and World War II, we was on home base as Americans. We wasn't shipping out nowhere to go fight no wars. That's not what it was. World War I hit, we got involved. World War II hit, we got involved. Now we being shipped off over to Germany to fight against Hitler and the Nazis. Fathers being removed from the homes, coming back with post-traumatic stress disorder, missing body parts, missing limbs, and a whole bunch of other problems that America just didn't have the mental psychiatry, that's a new word I'm going to introduce, to handle. They couldn't handle all that. They didn't have the resources to. No therapist, nobody to speak to, none of that. These men were coming home and beating the shit out of their wives. Beating the holy hell out of their wives. Waking up in the middle of the night with cold sweats because the thunder just hit and now they think they hearing bombs drop. Hiding under the table, going crazy, scaring the life out of their family. The kids are not understanding what's going on. They haven't touched that world yet. The wife barely even understands. She's just happy her husband is home. But now her happiness is starting to dwindle. She is now becoming unsatisfied and unhappy because of how the husband is now carrying himself due to the shell shock, to the PTSD. Right? So this is where we start to see the separation. And if it wasn't due to family separating, it was due to drugs. People, black folks, and I'm going to speak specifically in New York, were, and this goes for the women, were falling victim to drugs to run away from the depression that they were facing in their own households. And you had a lot of young women who were doing this prior to even giving birth, thus creating a term that we all should know now as crack baby. So just because things ain't going right in the home, everybody going outside and doing drugs now to be able to cope with what's going on. However, Americans are making more money. We should be happy. Right? Like we get into let me stop, right? We come out of World War II. All of these folks come home. All of this stuff is going on. America, if I'm not mistaken, hit one of their depressions. We hit a depression, if I'm not mistaken. And I could pull that up real quick, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was in the 1940s. And we're going to ask ChatGPT. That's the best friend, y'all. All right, they weren't a part of the Depression, right? 1940 and 1941 was the end of the Great Depression. The Great Depression began in 1929 and it dragged through the 1930s, right? Another stress trauma point right there. From the we had programs out in the 1930s that helped that helped people get jobs, but they were excluding black folks in the South. So now we got people prior to even going in the war struggling. They can't even make ends meet. Probably why they went to serve in the war. Right? Let's find out. Is that why black folks served? Is that why they served in World War II? And that's exactly why black folks served in World War II. It was survival, dignity, opportunity, and resistance all at one. The Great Depression hit black communities harder than anyone. Few jobs, no safety net, and racist New Deal programs. Military pay and wartime jobs offered a rare path out of poverty. I'd rather die on the battlefield than starve in the streets. That type of mindset for black people. So the Depression put us against the wall, right? We go to war, 1940s now, looking at it as an opportunity to come up out of that, some type of wealthy. When we're just coming home with more trauma and more stress than what we had from when we left to go to war. Bringing that into the household, destroying the whole entire family dynamic. Now that you got the fathers out of the household, they could capitalize off of that now. So like I said, we're going to move forward into the 1960s, 1970s, 1975. And that around that time, we going into the times of the Cold War, right? The Korean War. These pointless ass proxy wars that we fighting over there in the other side of the world that's not really doing anything for any average American. It's just making the situation all the more worse. Because not only did the Korean War and the Vietnam War bring traumatic changes to black folks in America, it brought drugs. At this time, now you got black people strung out on heroin, the 50s and the 60s. And with drugs comes more crime. Now neighborhoods like Harlem are no longer the same as what they was in the 1920s and 30s and early 40s, where we were thriving, like raising the roof, right? As income started to rise. You raising the roof. We owned Harlem and it was destroyed, right? Our communities out there destroyed by the gangs and the drugs and the violence. However, Americans are making more money. It's the 1970s. We making 10% more money than what we was making in the 1940s. However, our happiness is still dwindling. Oh, okay, that's right. That's why. Because of all of those other contributing factors that's playing, right? That's playing out in our world. That got nothing to do with money. It just all got to do with our physical and emotional well-being. We're not all up there, right? And this is the era a lot of our grandparents come from. When we go into it, our grandparents were born around these times and lived around these times. My great grandfather served in one of those wars, and he was a big time trapper in Harlem. Big time trapper, big get money, right? That life changed him, right? He sold the drugs, ended up doing the drugs. I wasn't here to see my grandfather because of those underlying factors. My father didn't get the chance to spend that much time with his own father because of those underlying factors. My father broke a generational curse. He broke a generational curse the minute he decided to stay in his child's life and my life and be the man that he is to me today. But for him, he experienced that domino effect of what his father and what they went through. My pops had that trauma embedded in him. Right? Unhappy, right? Don't have the average upbringing that we should have as young men and women, right? However, our parents and stuff, they making more bread, still hustling and bustling, but everybody's still unhappy. Right? And it's not only like this in the United States, it's like this in Britain as well. Right? It's to the point to where, and I don't want to continue to ramble about the drugs and the old days and stuff, but when we go into the 80s and the 90s, and the late 70s, the 80s and the 90s, that's when gangs are like at its highest. Drugs and gangs are at its highest in black communities all over America. All over America. Yet we're making more money, right? We got the motor industry in Detroit, cars being manufactured, all of these factories being built throughout the United States, right? Eventually they all shut down, taken away from that income. But we experienced a great economic boom from the 1970s up until the 1990s, from the hippie eras forward. Like that was the best time, quote unquote, to be an American. More money, more partying, right? More of a lavish lifestyle. Y'all see where I'm going? The money, the drugs, the partying, not of God. So then we bring it back to as we moved into the 20th century, what happened? We distanced ourselves away from God and started satisfying ourselves with the things that made us feel good as individuals. It's not to say don't show yourself no self-love. That's not to say that at all. Show yourself all of the self-love you need to. But in this sense, you got to use that discernment to pick out what's really self-love and what's really self-lust. There's a difference. Self-love is when you're pouring the things into your cup that make you a better person. Self-love is when you're pouring the things into your cup that make you a healthier person. Self-love is when you're pouring things into your cup that make you a more abundant person, right? Happier, willing to share, willing to give, willing to be open, willing to love. Self-lust is when you're pouring into the cup of all of the things that are worldly: drugs, partying, sex, sleeping around, murder, gangs, gangbanging, right? All of that stuff, not of God. That's self-lust. You think you love yourself, but you just love the feeling. You don't truly love yourself. Right? You don't truly love yourself. You're not indulged in depth with yourself, with that love. Right? You gotta carry that love, because the love is what makes you stronger, smarter, wiser, capable of pulling yourself up out of that mental slavery. Going back to it, we made more money throughout the years, even amidst the gangs, the crime, the Watts riots, the goddamn anything that we could think of that happened between the 60s and the 80s and the 90s. We've made more money. However, we've become unhappier. So like I said, going into it, right? They also detail in the book, like I said, the root causes, right? This is just from the book within itself. I'm going to read a quick chapter real quick, right? So it says, depression and crime. This brings us to the third piece of evidence that overall happiness has not risen over the past half century: the trends in depression, alcoholism, and crime. All these concrete expressions of unhappiness have increased rapidly in the post-war period. The rest of this chapter should convince anyone, even those whose eyes have been glued to gross national product, that the last 50 years have not been the era of improvement that we would have liked them to be. Post-war, all that trauma, we coming out of it, right? Coming out of it. And we still going to wars over the years. Very, very, very pointless. A lot of pointless shit, right? Now, they also make mention, right, in the book, they say what happens is, right, with most folks, especially older folks, they tend to forget those situations that created that early depression. So what this means is you have a generation of young adults who are growing up unconscious or unaware to what's even making them unhappy, or to the amount of depression that they're experiencing as individuals. They are unaware because they've forced themselves to forget about these traumatic moments that played out in their lives. And they did this only because they had to keep moving forward. And in the midst of that, you have all of these worldly things being put in front of you to distract you away from reality, right? Away from your real life. This is what you're dealing with in real life. You have all of these things distracting you. Now we got the television telling them lies. Television telling lies, cartoons telling lies, the newspaper telling lies. You got this entertainment there, this entertainment that, the drugs, all of this stuff is taking your mind away from being able to focus on yourself. So you have a generation of young women and men growing up, not building themselves up to be able to fix their own personal problems, or even being able to acknowledge it and know when to seek help. And what happens now? These people eventually have kids. And what happens with that? Well, according to the book Myth and Normal by Garber Mate, the trauma passes down through the womb. Trauma can be spread through the womb, right? Be cautious of when you're dealing with your baby mama when she's pregnant. You don't want that baby come out angry. Treat her with love, bro. Rock her fucking soul, bro. Rock her world. Because that's going to be everything that you need to create a healthy baby coming up out of that womb. Because according to the book, trauma passes through the womb. You have a generation of adults having kids not aware of their trauma. Now these kids are being born into a world that they will never be able to understand. They don't know why mommy and daddy act this way, because mommy and daddy don't even know why they act that way. Ain't that crazy? Domino effect at its highest. It also says that from 1950 to 1980, this is when we had the biggest increase of crime in America. Right? They're basically telling us there's no worse time of crime, which there was, but that's a whole nother story. Go watch my history videos where we break down the ancestral books. But from 1950 to 1980, we experienced a significant increase in crime. And what that did was it affected the minds and happiness of all of the people that were in these crime-ridden or crime-fueled areas, which are more than likely to be populated by black and brown folks. Right? It says, suicide data provide less relevant evidence on the scale of unhappiness, since in a typical country, only about 1% of deaths are by suicide. Suicide reflects the very extreme of misery. But suicide has indeed increased in most advanced countries except the United States, Britain, Sweden and Switzerland. And youth suicide has increased in almost every advanced country. So they're saying the kids are killing themselves way more than the adults, way more. It says, I shall not cite the growth of drug abuse, since this is partially propelled by easier access to the countries that supply drugs. In any case, depression started rising long before drugs took hold, right? The depression is traumatic, right? It's systematically traumatic. That trauma was passed down from before drugs made its way into the Americas, right? Or before drugs made its way into our country, into our communities, and whatever the case may be. This trauma is from slavery, from beyond that, right? That's how systematic that is. But check this out, right? More significant is crime. When social reformers looked forward in the 1930s to a future era of full employment and prosperity, they assumed it would be greater satisfaction and therefore lower crime. Never did social forecasting go so far astray. Instead, in most countries between 1950 and 1980, recorded crime increased by at least 300%. This is most countries. The striking exception is Japan, not surprised, where crime, if anything, fell. Since 1980, there have been significant reductions in crime in the United States, Australia, Canada, and since 1995 in Britain. But crime is still way above its level than it was in 1950. Bring it back, right? In 1940, we were making less, but more happier. Crime increased in the 50s. We're making more money, but people are becoming less happier, right? These are the underlining facts that contribute to that unhappiness. The crime. How you still got folks still making a bag, but because people just can't stop doing nut shit, our entire generation has to suffer. That entire generation has to suffer, right? The people that live within them communities and whatnot. Right now, these people are all going through experiences and situations that are resulting in them being depressed or unhappy. Family members being murdered, family members dying because they strung out on drugs, right? Going to jail for life, kids losing their fathers, kids losing their mothers, right? It's a lot that was going on. So you can't even put a price on that type of divide or division. There's no price you could put on that. There's no amount of money that can fix a broken home. There's no amount of money. You could go make $150,000, but if you lost your family, that $150,000 means nothing. It means nothing. And I want people to understand this. Like, that worldly stuff, we can't fall for it no more, bro. They can't keep putting these things in our face and we fall victim for it as if that's the only thing we should be worried about on this earth. There's more to life. There's more to life. And one of those things that are more to life is family. Ohana, love your loved ones. Nothing should ever come before them. Not a gang, not a set, not a pill, not none of that. Because at the end of the day, those are the people that's going to suffer. When something happened to you, they going to be the ones that's going to have to put it on the line. They going to suffer. You obviously don't care about the suffering. But it's people around you that do. So here we go. Bring it back to the individualism. I love it so much. That mindset will cause you to be on some, I don't care what people think. I'm going to do what I want to do. But you're hurting your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, uncle, auntie. You're hurting them, the people who truly love you. So can you say you love them if you don't care about how you make them feel? That's not love. That's not love. If you're a real soldier, you're going to hold it down for your family. For the ones who love you, when they ask for change, you're going to give it. Right? Respect is given. Respect is given. And when them people love you and respect you, it's best that you love and respect them back. And you do it in a way that works for both parties. Because we are giving our lives to the devil when we push them away and accept what the devil is giving us. Because he wants to bring you to that world. But God wants to keep you with him free. But that mental battle, if you don't have the discernment or the clarity to be able to overcome, then you will succumb. Get it? Don't let that go over your head. So continuing, the extraordinary rise in crime during the golden era of post-war economic progress took almost everyone by surprise, precisely because it contrasted so strongly with earlier experience. In early 19th century, there was a high criminality in the newly grown industrial cities of Britain and the United States, right? At this time, this is when you had all the white folks gang banging, right? Especially in Britain. It was going crazy over there. Dickens' fame was anything but unique, but as prosperity grew, so did social order, and crime fell up to the First World War. From then on, it was fairly stable through the Great Depression, only to escalate the period of post-war economic growth. So they saying as well with this, right, is that war brung a reduction in crime, because you took all of the men out of these environments and gave them something to do. The poor men, black men, colored men, you gave them something to do, right? And while they was over there doing whatever they was doing in war, right, that was putting more trauma on them, they was bringing that stuff back home, right? Further destroying the family dynamic. Like, we could talk about this stuff all day, bro. The key factors to unhappiness: alcohol, drugs, gangs, war, lack of village compassion. Lack of village compassion, because we can't be compassionate as a people. We fall victim to this form of unhappiness. We fall victim to struggle. We fall victim to all of those powers and entities that prey on our downfall. Right? There's no way in a world where money is supposed to bring happiness, right? Money is not the root of all evil. It's what happens when you get the money. That's going to determine what brings you more happiness or more depression. But there's no way we're living in a world where we can earn more as human beings, as people, as Americans. However, our happiness is dwindling and dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. Granted, they are making it extremely hard to live, especially in cities like New York City. But it wouldn't be as difficult if people came together as families. You know, whatever companions or small groups of people you got came together to solve the issue as a unit and not as individuals. Right? That's how you solve that problem right there within itself. Ditch that individualism mindset and create solutions within this city so that we could set a new trend and usher in a new era of happiness, right? Through love, education, showing people that we can unify. We can buy blocks. We could buy cul-de-sacs. We could buy homes. We could get moms and pop shops. We could get smoke shops. We could get all these things where we can chill as our own people. We can do all of that. There's nothing stopping us because they're giving us the money. They're giving it us. They're giving us the money. It's about what we do with it. How smart are you? Are you going to fall victim to the worldly things, the things of the devil, so where you can't get your own? Or are you going to move graciously with the faith of the Most High? Strike like a tiger, like a lion. Overcome your goals. Pour into your cup. Fill it up so that way you could pour into others. That's the solution within itself, man. I rest my case right there. Man, this was a good one. It's Kingwillo, man. The Ancestor Effect. I appreciate y'all for tuning into this one. We got so much more book to go through. So much more. And I got mad heat, different books and just different forms or contexts that we can use to educate one another on this platform. Right? No more gatekeeping. Let's put it out there. Right? Let's get it out there so that everybody can obtain some of this knowledge. So that everybody can utilize that discernment and shift things into a more positive direction. Again, like I said, man, it's Kingwillo, Copper Color King, man, the Ancestor Effect podcast. Make sure you guys go check out my books on Amazon, man. I'm going to keep pushing this. Like every day we're going to push this, man, because this is a part of the mission. This is a part of the mission. We are trying to motivate people and put folks on like, yo, listen, life can be different. Like we could do this in from a whole different spectrum, a whole different side of the field, right? A whole different play on the field. Like, go check them out, man. They're on Amazon for the young copper-colored women and mothers, and for the young copper-colored men and fathers, man. 25 motivational quotes. Make sure y'all go check that out, man. These are some of the best things that I could have created up until today. Because there's quotes in this book, man, that's going to help you get through. Like you're going to get through. It's going to help you break through a lot of these struggles that we face on the everyday. And like I said, man, I rest my case. I love y'all, man. Make sure y'all tune into the next one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. We still going to be dropping these live streams, man, doing these history segments, covering these books, doing these deep dives, just doing everything that we can to educate the people, man. Peace.